Hello and welcome back to Kim's Cozy Corner. I'm Kim and today I'm going to talk about watering all of your starts, all of your young seedlings. So let's get started. When you're watering your young seedlings, you always want to water from the bottom. In this particular tray here, I would water the tray and let the water absorb from the bottom. And so I'm going to show you how to do that today. In this tray here, the soil is nice and dark. So that means it doesn't need watering. It's a really dark color. The soil is very moist. There is no need to water this tray. And you can tell that it doesn't need watering as well because the tray is actually kind of heavy. So we know this tray is good to go and doesn't need to be watered. In this tray here, the soil is very light. So comparing the two, you can see that the soil is very light. It's very dry to the touch and the tray is extremely light. So I know that these cells need to be watered. Now there's nothing growing in these cells right now, but I just want to demonstrate how to water your cells. When you're watering your seedlings, right? So these are seedlings because they've already come up, but when you're watering them, some people decide not to use any fertilizer and some do. My seed starting mix has no life in it whatsoever. There is no organism, there's no life in it, and you don't need it when you're starting from seeds. But once it breaks ground and you now have little bitty plants in each of your cells, you may decide that you want to do some fertilizing. I typically get whatever you can get from the local market. The product that I'm currently using is from Fox Farm. It has a 644. 644 stands for 6% nitrogen, 4% phosphate, and 4% potash. And when you are fertilizing your transplant, you don't need high numbers here. You don't need high numbers at all because these young babies don't need a lot. And so Fox Farm had this one with a very low and even numbers across. So when I mean even, like low numbers across, you don't want like a 20 and a 2 and a 2. No. You want all low numbers. So I have a 6, a 4, and a 4, which means it's pretty level across the board. And each one of these provides a different nutrient for your plant health. So I have the Fox Farm. Fox Farm says if you are fertilizing your seedlings, then you need a half teaspoon per gallon of water once a week. A half teaspoon. So it doesn't take very much at all. So you would only put a half teaspoon to a gallon of water. So this is a gallon of water, and I honestly use water right out my tap. Some people prefer spring water and the fancy waters and stuff. I just use it right out of my tap. What I do though is I fill my container up and then I let it set for a good day or so before I use it in my seedling or to water my plants. But I would put in a half teaspoon for my seedlings into this water here. And you can even go lower than that. So don't feel like you have to use that much. You can always use less, but I would not use more. If you use more, your plants could get this white color to the leaves, which means that you've over fertilized them. I don't need to add this today because the tray that I'm going to show you on has no seedlings in it, so I don't want to waste this product. Let me bring you in close so I can show you up close how to water from the bottom this tray. Now that I've brought you in up close, you can really see the difference in these two trays. Look how dark and rich this soil looks compared to the soil on the other side here, which is a very light brown. And it's the exact same starting mix. There's nothing different. I pulled it from the same bags. It's mixed exactly the same, but you can see a huge difference in this one and the one just to the side of it. So obviously these need to be watered. So let me show you that watering process. I'm just going to take my water and I am going to water from the bottom of the tray. So I just pour the water in. Usually if the tray is full of transplants, so if I had something all the way across in this tray, I would fill this tray up maybe 1/4 of an inch to start, and then you'll watch the water absorb into each one of these containers from the bottom. So from the bottom, it's going to start soaking up that water. And I mean, if you were sitting here, if you had time to sit here, right, you can watch it just soak it right up. The other thing you want to do is not leave standing water in the bottom of the tray. Once the cells have absorbed all the water that they can take in, and they're a nice dark brown or even black in color like this, and they're nice and heavy, and you know that they've fully absorbed all the water that they can, and there's leftover water in the tray, then you need to pour that water out the tray. You don't want your seedling sitting in water because that'll just destroy the seedling itself. But this water is absorbing right into the tray. I don't know if you can tell or not, but if I let this go for 20 minutes or more, you will watch this soil turn a really dark color, just like the one beside it. And the water that I poured in here is already almost gone from the bottom of the tray. It's really, really absorbing into it pretty quickly. While this is absorbing, I have a video here that I would like to show you of me watering my transplant. In the video, you will see me remove one of the containers to make room so I can water the tray, and the water will absorb from the bottom. In this picture here, you can see the onions are a really nice dark color in the front, but the one in the back is a lighter brown, which means the one in the back here needs watering, where the one in the front doesn't really need much watering. But I've poured the water in, and in a few moments here, because I'll fast forward it, you will be able to see that that particular tray now is a dark brown color, which means that it has fully been watered. I also want to show you how I water my GreenStalk, which is from the top, where inside a grow tent, you have to be really careful not to water too much, or you got to figure out what to do with the excess water that comes out the bottom. So I like to slowly water from the top. And once you water from the top, you'll see that it'll hit that center hole and it'll go down to the other layers. And the top layer continues to be watered as it slowly seeps into that top layer. In addition to watering the GreenStalk in this fashion, if you are starting seeds directly into the GreenStalk, they don't have the long roots to absorb that water from the bottom up. So I like to take a spray bottle and spray them right on top. And I'll do that sometimes when I'm starting seedlings in my tray as well. So it's just a typical spray bottle, just like this. No fertilizer or anything in here. And you just give it a nice spritz right on top, just like this, in the GreenStalk. And that nice spritz will make sure that those seedlings are still getting the water that they need so that they can sprout. So I'm doing this for all of my carrots, as well as for my small lettuce in here. Now, the lettuce didn't need it, but I got trigger happy and I started watering everything. But that's how you water your seedlings. And you don't need to water it as soon as you see a light brown on top. You know, touch the soil. It may be damp underneath. So if I picked up one of these trays and you put your finger in, you can feel dampness underneath that top level. If you still feel that, it's not time to water. It's not time to water. Now, you don't want your soil to dry out to the point where it's so dry and crusty that it's a hard ball, because now you've really just ruined that root structure. I mean, it's starving basically for water. I'm going to bring you back in a moment as this water continues to absorb and to fill up each one of these containers. While this one's already getting heavy. Big difference from when I first put it in. This tray is really starting to absorb that water in there. I'll show you a before picture and an after picture of these cells once they've fully rehydrated with the water. If the cells are still showing a light brown color and all of the water that you added to the bottom of the tray, and you can see here the water is almost gone on in this tray, then you can add a little more water to it. Just like so. So that you can make sure you fully rehydrate these cells. Well, I will be back in a few minutes as we give these cells time to absorb the water from the bottom so you can see what the final cells will look like. While we wait for those seedling trays to fully rehydrate, let me show you my process for watering my pots in my indoor grow garden. To water my pots, again, you use the same process as you would with a seedling tray. If the soil is damp, there's no need to water it. But if the soil is showing that is drying and it needs to be watered, I'll show you that process as well. Now, this is a pot that I've started potatoes in. So I have some little potato seedlings in the bottom. That's on a video about my indoor transplanting and starting of potatoes. And in here, they don't need a lot of watering, but I want to show you the process. I have a tray underneath this pot to catch any excess water that's coming out. I would just fill this particular container up, put a little water in it from the top, because it's a regular pot. It's how you would water any other pot. And the water, of course, is going to come out the bottom if I've used too much, and it'll sit in that tray to be reabsorbed if need be. Again, you don't want a ton of standing water underneath even your potted plants. So you want to make sure that you're limiting how much excess water you're filling those up with. So you only water when it needs to be watered. Too much love can be bad for your plants. For my transplants, so this is a container of romaine lettuce here, and it's all romaine lettuce, by the way. There's a red romaine in here and the traditional Paris white romaine. For this particular pot, it has a self-watering bottom on it, so it can actually hold a little excess water if needed. But I'm in my indoor grow tent, so I don't want to overwater and, flood the inside of my indoor grow tent. So the process that I use for these, it's no different. I take my water, and usually I have seedlings that are up. You see the greens. So I would have put some fertilizer in here, a very small amount, a half a teaspoon per gallon. And I am just going to slowly give each one just a little drink. I could water the whole container and just spread water everywhere, but I'm trying to put the water where I need it. So there you have it. I gave each one of the little plants a little drink of water. And that's all they're going to need for another, 4 to 7 days. That's all they need. So I've showed you an example of how I've watered my transplants, my GreenStalk, and my pots. Let's get back to the seedling tray and let's see how it's rehydrating. All right, I'm back, and I wanted to show you how we're doing on this tray absorbing all of the water. So if you compare the tray here that did not need to be watered to this tray, you can see now that their colors are getting very close. There's only a teeny little bit of water left in the bottom of this tray, and there's still just a few places on here that still need some water. So I believe that all of the water will be absorbed from this tray. But if this tray was fully rehydrated, right, everything's nice and moist and you don't need any more water in this tray, but there was leftover water, in the bottom of the tray, I take that water and use it to water my pots. So when I am in the process of watering, I start with my seedling trays and I get those rehydrated. And once those are done, I look to see if there's extra water in the bottom and I use that water to water my pots. Some people say that I'm cheap. I say that I'm frugal. Everything costs money, including water. So I try to repurpose that leftover water for my pots. But I want to show you how this tray looks now and compare it back to this picture here when we first started this project today. So comparing the tray now to when we started, you see how deep and dark the cells are now compared to before. So this tray has been rehydrated, and you only need to do this process as needed, which typically is only like once a week or every 5 days or so. But I check on my seedlings daily when I'm in town, and when I'm not in town, I have my family check on them as well. But typically, if you are watering them properly and fully rehydrating each tray indoors, you probably only need to water maybe once every 5 to 7 days or so. But you just keep your eye on it and do it as needed. Too much love can be damaging. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. I'm trying to bring you content that's useful for beginner gardeners and those who are just afraid of doing this gardening thing. You can do it too. Please subscribe to my channel. Have a wonderful, blessed day. Enjoy growing. Bye-bye.